So I'm here with Jiten Melwani, who is from BitGameLabs.
Hi, Freya, thanks for having me today.
You gave a great talk today about risk management in Bitcoin sports betting. And you talked a bit about the opportunities, that it's fast payments and there's no fraud, there's no chargebacks, and it's opening up global markets for the gambling industry. The outcome of your talk was that you had some advice for people on how to manage their risk. Can you just explain what your views are on how people should be managing their risk in the gambling industry?
Sure, of course. So there's different types of risks running a sports book in Bitcoin. The first, as we touched on earlier, is your currency risk. The value of Bitcoin does change wildly. So even in a single day, you can't accept a bet that you're going to have to pay out an amount that's unknown when the bet's concluded. It might be 10 or 20% greater or less than the value at the time you took the bet. So you have to be intelligent in the way that you manage your currency. Now, the way that I suggest it is a very rudimentary way, but a very effective one, is to, of your internal sports bankroll, retain some in Bitcoin and some in fiat currency, and have a fixed ratio and trade to that ratio every day. Buy and sell coins as you must and retain that ratio such that you're always able to pay your liabilities, and also you're doing it in a way where you're not taking on any undue risk due to currency movement. Now that's currency movement, and that's not dissimilar to other Bitcoin businesses that operate with fiat currency as well, like BitPay, for example, or anyone that operates in that cross-section between digital and fiat currency. Now, more interesting is when you're managing your risk specifically in a sportsbook. Now, sportsbooks work in one of three ways, the way that they manage risk specifically. The first is they take a recreational book approach whereby if they identify that players are winning players, they cut their limits such that they can't win too much, such that they can only get small amounts of money on. Now, with Bitcoin, you can't effectively do that because it's very easy for customers to spin up new accounts. So, your other two options are, number two overall, is you offer two-way markets, i.e. spread markets, handicap markets, total markets, Asian handicap markets, where you can either bet on one outcome or another, and the likelihood of each is roughly similar. It's American customers are going to know this as a handicap bet in the NFL or in the NBA or as a total bet. There are two sides, and you give one side a handicap such that the teams are roughly evenly matched. And with this approach, you have enough liquidity such that where the price settles ultimately is determined by the market. Therefore, you don't care if the customer is making an intelligent bet or an unintelligent bet. You don't care if they're a sharp customer or a square customer. Now, this is difficult because it means you need a lot of liquidity. It means that in order to take large-sized bets, you need to have a lot of action on both sides, which very few sportsbooks in the world do. There's probably fewer than 6 on the face of the earth that can do this for the most liquid sports, and they tend all to be in Asia. So that's not a great strategy. Now, the final way is the most complicated, the most sophisticated, and also the only possible way to do it successfully in the Bitcoin world. And that's to take a different approach whereby you very aggressively grade your customers such that you quickly and early identify who your sharp customers are such that you use their bets to help sharpen your own prices. This is an approach taken by, again, a very small number of books in the world at the moment, but very successful ones. What this means overall is that if you are managing risk in a sports book, you don't have all of the tools to manage risk with a Bitcoin sportsbook that you would do if you worked in a fiat sportsbook environment, because you can't cut a customer's limits. So what you have to do is you have to grade your customers aggressively and you have to price your events very accurately.
So I guess I wanted to bring in Coinapult just briefly because when you were talking about volatility, I instantly thought of the locks product, which enables people to fix the value of incoming bitcoins. And I wondered what you thought about that as a aid to some of these companies.
I met the guys at Coinapult before, and they're very sharp, switched-on guys who are great for Bitcoin and great for the Bitcoin world. My understanding of the product is it does allow you effectively to create some sort of hedging facility whereby the value of your coin is effectively locked. Now, if that were the case, that would be really helpful in managing your currency risk. That's a really good way to protect yourself from the volatility of Bitcoin. However, you still also need an approach to manage your risk in a sportsbook, which is totally separate to the volatility of the price of Bitcoin.
The takeaway, I think, from today for me has been that Bitcoin lends itself very well to payments on the internet. And I just wondered where you thought the industry was going with regards to Bitcoin. Is it a slow grow, or do you think we'll see actually it pick up this year?
I still think that there's a lot that needs to happen in the intersection between Bitcoin and the non-Bitcoin world, specifically with the regulators. Like, gambling is a very heavily regulated environment. So for Bitcoin to be fully embraced by the gambling community, there must be regulators that understand the benefits and the risks and how to manage them in a responsible way, how to protect the customers, the end users, and also how to hold operators accountable for the things that they do. Now, Bitcoin has a lot of answers for this because the blockchain, as everyone will know, is public. So there's many wonderful benefits. However, the gap is in education. The regulators have to understand. Like, we speak to regulators every day in this continued journey to helping them understand. And until that happens, there's not going to be widespread adoption. We are limited in that we can only build payment systems and sports systems at this stage. But my view on regulation is that it's better not to regulate than it is to regulate badly. So, truthfully, gun to head, is 2015 the year that the gaming industry fully embraces Bitcoin? I'd say no. But it can't be that far into the future because the benefits are just too obvious and overwhelming. And it's a very obvious solution for operators that are crying out with exactly these problems to do with payments and fraud and chargebacks and global reach and size of transaction. All the wonderful virtues of Bitcoin payments that already exist today are exactly what gaming operators need. However, the missing piece of the puzzle is the regulator, and I hope that's soon. Fingers crossed.